Bring in, as promised, Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, Keith.
There's been a spike in the desire to own guns in Connecticut. Statewide, over 90,000 guns have been authorized for sale. You know how I feel about it.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope everybody had a wonderful, wonderful holiday. I hope that you spent time with your family, your friends, your community, and you didn't do it in a shopping mall. I hope you took in the beginning of the greatest season of the year, which is this holiday season. Man, it's amazing how quick things are progressing and everything. It is December 2nd, 2013, and you are listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Yes, that is correct. We are out of Facebook jail. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But if you'd like to give us a call, the call-in number is 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Tonight, we got a great show. We're actually trying to change around our format a little bit, give you guys a little bit of consistency. I know that's what you guys have been asking for, is a little bit of consistency. So in tonight's show, obviously the first hour we're going to be talking about Black Friday, Hillary Clinton. Those words kind of go together. That's an inside joke. Obamacare, obviously, that's the big news. December 1st has come and gone. So we'll be talking about Obamacare. And then in the second hour, we have a special guest, Tim Sort, that's going to be joining us, talking about his website and also reloading. I believe Mondays are going to become Firearm Mondays. Should be Firearm Fridays. It kind of goes together. Munitions. There it is. Munitions Monday. And so Tim will be joining us, on the line talking about his two books about reloading. Very interesting. Very interesting, especially if you're an avid shooter like myself. Cost of ammunition's gone up. He's probably going to show us how to save some money. Now, also more importantly, how to reload safely. His two books. Then we're going to start a new segment called Moments in American History. It's a great segment. I've been kicking it around for a couple days now after I watched the show and had a wonderful, wonderful brunch with hopefully I can call them dear friends here in Joe and his wife. So they were traveling through going back to Ohio. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to be talking about gun control in the third hour and then also RBS. It is coming. It is coming. Do you have a plan? Do you? What happens if the bank, you go to your shopping store, and you use your credit card, it doesn't work? Well, that's what happened in the UK today with RBS. So we'll be talking about that and much more. We'll be taking, listener calls at 1-800-580-4870. You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. Join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. You can join us here live every Monday through Friday, 9 till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time.
say that the country's done. They say that the stock market's gonna crash. They say that every single one of us is gonna lay down while they walk across our back. But I'ma stand up. I'm gonna put my fists in the air. No, I don't wanna have to bring my guns, but I'll be ready if it goes there. But you can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Get what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country, me and you right now. But I don't wanna. So let's stand up, put our fists in the air. No, we don't wanna have to bring our guns, but we'll be ready if it goes there. 'Cause we're the epitome of what's left of the USA. We're hardworking, honest, and we make our money the good old-fashioned way. But you can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country, me and you right now. But I don't wanna. No, I don't wanna. Well, let's say that the country's fine. With a little hard work and prayer, we can get her back on her feet. 'Cause I believe she belongs there. So let's stand her up and brush off the dirt and dust. A Lady Liberty needs our help from every single one of us. But you can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that tyranny is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country, need and you right now. But I don't wanna. No, I don't wanna. But I don't wanna. No, I don't wanna. So let's stand up, put our fists in the air. No, we don't wanna have to bring our guns, but we'll be ready if it goes there, yeah. So let's stand up, put our fists in the air. No, we don't wanna have to bring our guns. No, we don't wanna have to bring our guns, but we'll be ready if it goes there. Ready if it goes there. Ready if it goes there. Be ready if it goes.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here live every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can also join us 24/7 on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com for all the latest news, information about the show, topics, upcoming topics, guests, and format changes. If you want to join the conversation, you can give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. This is a show that we put together for you, the Patriot. I've always said that I'm just the track. You are the engine. You are the motor, the locomotive. And it's my job just to kind of guide you, to bring you into the station. So if you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call, 1-800-580-4870. Right now we got a call on the line, so we'll go ahead and take that. Caller, are you there? Caller?
Yes, Jeff, I am.
Hey, how are you?
Fine. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Is this Tim?
Yes, it is, Jeff.
Hey, Tim. So for the listeners, actually, we'll kind of circumvent because of timing and everything. We'll bring Tim in the first hour, and then we'll cover all the topics in the second and third hour and take caller calls. So how are you?
I'm doing well.
I was out on the website. So for those that don't know, if you guys didn't have an opportunity to actually go out to our website and see what we're going to be talking about, is Tim is joining us, and we're going to be talking about reloading. He has written 2 books on reloading that are available through his website and also on Amazon.com. Now, Tim, I have to tell you, I did not know that you were, that we're actually neighbors. And that was not by design. And the way that I found that out is I was looking at the picture of one of your books, and I've seen that site picture many a times. And so that's the range over there by the lake, correct? I know they don't like to say their name. They don't like to be publicized that way. So
yes, that's why a few other people have commented about that, and there are no identifying features in the photograph, and I did actually talk to the president, and I was informed that was fine as long as there was no identifying features and that we do not refer to them by name.
Exactly. The range that has no name.
Yes.
And stuff. But,
well, actually, it really doesn't have a name.
Yep.
So, having said that, yes, I've been a member there for 23 years, but moving on.
Yes.
My 2 books are about reloading. I've been reloading my own ammunition since 1975 for 38 years. And I have probably loaded over 100,000 rounds of ammunition in my life for myself and have quite a bit of experience. And how the first book came about was I was up at said range a few years ago, and a long story short, a young guy commented that there were no beginner's books available. And so a light bulb went off, and I sat down and wrote the first one. And then after I had sold a number of copies of the first one, some of the people who have purchased my first book asked me if I was going to write a sequel. So I sat down and wrote the sequel, and that's how they came about. My first book was the focus of my first book was to give the newcomer, the guy who was just starting out and reloading, who didn't really know anything, didn't know what he needed, anything, to give them all the knowledge necessary to get started into what I consider a very rewarding hobby.
Sure.
And the second book goes into more detail into a lot of the finer points of reloading, how to fine-tune your ammunition, what you can do, what I've found works. And there are a lot of other things in my second book that you will not find almost anywhere else. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you're familiar with Jack Krieger of Krieger Barrels up in Germantown.
Yep.
Are you not? Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know Jack. I've known Jack for quite some time, and he purchased both of my books, and he recently gave me a review of my books, and that review is also posted on my website. And one of the things in my second book, one of the chapters is how to convert Berdan Prime brass to Boxer Primed. And Mr. Krieger actually commented about that, and that really interested him because you will not find that information anywhere else. Because I developed that little technique that I covered in that chapter in my second book all by myself. And another chapter of my second book is how to molly coat bullets. I've been molly coating my own bullets for a number of years now, and there are some idiosyncrasies concerning that little process that you really can't pick up anywhere else, that you will, unless somebody tells you about them, you will not learn anywhere else. But I do sell both of my books as a set. That's also on my website. My website is 1776men.com.
Yep. And actually, we have a link.
It's my trademark.
Yeah. We have a link, actually. If you go out to www.themidnightpatriot.com, you'll be able to link over to Tim's website. And then after the show, of course, we will put the links for Amazon or the link, because your books are listed on Amazon, correct?
Yes, yes, my books are listed on Amazon. My books are copyrighted. They have ISBN numbers.
Sure. So, what would you prefer to people to come to your site directly and purchase the books, or would you want them to go through Amazon?
It really doesn't make any difference to me.
Okay.
The thing is, the main reason why I listed my books on Amazon is because I do not have the ability to accept credit card orders via my website, because for those listeners that are not totally familiar with how some of the idiosyncrasies of computers is, whenever you go to a website and you purchase something, you're always directed to a specific page. And those pages, every website page has an address. Well, in order to have one of those pages where you can purchase something via a credit card over the internet, that page should have what's referred to as an SSL, which stands for Secure Server License. And you have to have an SSL in order to have a secure web page to accept credit card orders. And pretty much everybody looks for that. That anybody that I know I do whenever I make a purchase over the internet. And how you distinguish those pages is the address. The HTTP has an S after it.
Yep.
So that page has a secure server license attached to it.
Sure. Yep. And so
it's another expense that I really don't want to go into right now.
Trust me, I know.
Determined that it was easier to just list my books on Amazon. But if somebody wants to send me a personal check or a money order, that's
sure
how I sell my books via my website.
Absolutely. Okay. That's understandable. Now let's get, I actually inherited a Dillon 650 from my father, who was an avid 45 shooter, and shot competitions, quite a bit, and he decided that he was going to go into golf and get out of the gun business, and so I inherited all that. Now I will tell you, one thing that I've seen in my professional career and everything is, I'm very comfortable around any firearm. As far as its operation, its manufacturing, I'm not concerned about that. But one of the things that I've always stayed away from was the ammunition, because I've seen most firearm failures drastic, I would say drastic failures, not, feed failures or ramp failure, those types of failures. But most cartridge failures are actually in the cartridge, and most of them that I've seen were from guys who were reloading their own, too much powder, hot loads, or actually I've actually seen a very beautiful Colt completely destroyed by a person who did not load enough enough powder in there. So that's always been a concerning. So what I've done is my Dillon 650 actually sits at a friend's house who is an avid reloader. And he reloads, and then I just been so busy with the show I haven't gotten over there. So I'm going to sit down with him and learn myself. And now, is this something, do you recommend someone sitting down with someone who is knowledgeable, to get the basics down, or is your book structured in such a way that a person can go from page 1 all the way up to, the ending of it and basically produce a safe round?
Yes.
Okay.
I sat down and I wrote my first book, with that specific topic in mind.
Sure.
What the newcomer who knows absolutely nothing, and as a matter of fact, I'll tell you, my lovely wife, she wrote, how I wrote my first book was, I wrote my first book by hand in a spiral ring notebook, and then my wife transcribed it onto her computer and edited it. And she said that just by doing that, she learned so much about what I do in my room. She was dumbfounded. I go into everything. I go into safety. And then the other thing is I go into why you do what you do at specific points in the operation, instead of just saying, well, you got to do this, 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 and this, because I understand that people learn much better when you explain to them why you're doing this. Why, like, to be specific, when you reload rifle ammunition, in particular, bottleneck cartridges, like whether it be a 308, 223, 30-06, one of the Magnums, you name it, doesn't matter. A lot of people don't understand that a cartridge case stretches every time it is fired. And consequently, the rifle brass has to be trimmed, and all the specific specifications for each individual case, they are all given in loading manuals, and I go into loading manuals also in my first book. I believe that you can never have enough loading manuals. I have over 30 loading manuals in my library, ranging in age from the early 60s all the way up to, a couple that have just come out within the last couple of years. Those loading manuals are a wealth of information, but unfortunately, loading manuals do not give you the information that my books give you. Mm-hmm. They just give you, specific load information, like how much powder to charge in a case with this, particular bullet weight, that type of thing, and what the cartridge case dimensions are. Every cartridge that's listed in a loading manual, they always give you all the case dimensions, whether it be the rim diameter, the case length, the body diameter, you name it. I also go into safety. Like I said previously, I've probably loaded over 100,000 rounds of ammunition in my life, and I've never had a mishap, because one of the other things, like I point out in my first book, is that the individual hand loader can practice quality control a lot better than the factory. And I go into that in my first book. Like, I'll give you an example. A typical ammunition ammunition manufacturer, their quality control is they'll take like 100 rounds off of the assembly line. And if everyone goes bang and doesn't blow anything up, the net lot of ammunition is good. You know, they don't test for accuracy or anything else. But the individual reloader can, you know, custom tune their ammunition to their particular firearm. That's one of the big advantages of loading your own ammunition. I've shot at Camp Perry in the national matches several times. I've won a few medals, as a matter of fact, and I've always used my own ammunition. And that's one of the advantages of loading your own ammo, is that you can load more accurate ammo. I mean, that's one of the big advantages. So, in answer to your question, yeah, it may be advantageous. It probably would be advantageous to sit down with somebody like myself who's been doing it for almost 40 years, but it's really not necessary if you have my books.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And, you know, we're all about community and getting plugged into the community. And that's, you know, if you want to get into reloading, you know, obviously get your books. But the other part of it, too, is, you know, go to your local gun range. You'll always find someone who is there who is reloading. I mean, they're everywhere, you know, and you know who they are, because they're the guys that are going around and picking up the brass. They're not doing that as a courtesy to the range to keep it clean. They're doing that because they're doing the brass and
hoarding brass. Yeah, exactly. We're hoarding brass.
That's
I have 5-gallon buckets full of brass in my garage.
Exactly. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's you know, how much is out there. So, you know, what we're going to do is let's take a little break here, Tim. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. I got some more questions for you, you know, progressive loaders versus non-progressive, and a lot of different information. So you're listening to the Midnight Patriot. So hang on there for us for a little bit, Tim, and then we'll do another segment after the break. So you're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show podcast. Join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. Join us here live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. When we get back, we're going to be talking with Tim Stewart about obviously his 2 books about reloading and advanced reloading techniques. And also we'll be talking about his website, his blog, when we get back from the break.
And our own self-destruction. God only knows we need help. Looking for a hero, someone who cares about the future, not about themselves, but about the idea of America. We need a hero, someone who shows the way. We need a hero who speaks for the people and what we have to say. We still believe this land of the free is still America. We still believe in the land of the free. We need a miracle. You know this freedom is anything but free. What we have here depends on those who will fight for what they believe. When we stand together, there's nothing that we can't achieve. This nation of people
control spending, a government that no longer works for the people. Had enough? Then vote for Stone Anthony for president. Replace politicians with a citizen statesman. www.stoneanthony2016.com.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. On the line tonight, we actually have a special guest. We're talking about reloading with Tim Swert. Tim, is that how you pronounce your last name? Is it Swert?
T-word, Jeff.
T-word. Okay. T-word. So, and also, you know, so
it's been so maligned all my life. It's like water off a duck's back.
I do apologize.
As long as it doesn't, doesn't continue, that's fine. Anyway.
That's fine.
So
that's fine.
I know right before the break you asked how I felt about progressives, and it just so happens that one of the chapters in my book, and my second book, is entitled About Progressives. I do have a few progressive machines. I have owned other progressive machines in the past. And not to steal the whole 6-page chapter in my book, but they do have their place. But having said that, I strongly recommend anybody who is just starting out in reloading to buy a single-stage press. And the reason why is because that way it's very easy to understand and to learn and understand the whole progression of the process.
Sure.
And I go into all of that in my first book, exactly what you need to do. And here's the other thing about progressives. Okay. Now that we're on the subject, with a progressive machine, like a lot of the ammunition that I load and that I've loaded over the years has been rifle ammunition because I have been a competitive high-power rifle shooter for over 30 years. And like I talked about previously, you have to trim the rifle brass. For a long time, when I've been shooting competitively, I was shooting an M1A, and then I went to a match AR, and I've also done a lot of long-range shooting with bolt-action rifles and 30-06 and one of the 30-caliber Magnums. I also have a 6.5 by 284. Anyway, you have to trim your rifle brass, and what happens is pretty much you can only get 2 firings out of a rifle case before it has to be trimmed again, especially a bottleneck case like one of those that I mentioned just before. If you're loading on a progressive press, there's no station on almost all progressive presses. There's no station where you can trim your rifle brass. Now, I know you mentioned the Dillon 650, and they do have, I know for a fact Dillon does have a gizmo that you put on one of their presses for trimming brass, but I don't have any experience with that. I don't know how accurate it is. You really need to be able to trim your brass very accurately. I mean, it has to, excuse me, the measurements are thousandths of an inch, and you only really have a 10,000th of an inch window of the correct length. You know, too long, and you run into problems, and too short, and you run into other problems. Yep. That's the reason why you need to trim your rifle brass, is because when it stretches and it gets too long, longer than the specs, what happens is when, okay, let's say you didn't change, let's give a hypothetical situation. You loaded some ammo, you're loading 308, and you just didn't trim your brass for one of whatever reasons. And your brass is too long. Let's say it's maybe 10,000ths of an inch too long. Now, granted, 10,000ths of an inch isn't that much. It's only the thickness of $2 bills put together. But that is enough to where if you were to chamber that loaded round, I mean, you've loaded it, you've got the correct powder charge in there, you got the bullets seated. When you chamber that round, the end of the cartridge case is going to be beyond the chamber limits. So it's actually going to cause the mouth of that cartridge case to grip the bullet even more. And what happens is when you fire that round of ammunition, you get excess pressure, and you can really get some really serious pressure spikes with, even the correct powder charge. Yeah. To the point where you could have damage to the firearm or, worse. Yep. So that is the reason why you have to trim your rifle brass. And I load all my rifle brass on a single-stage press. All my rifle ammunition on a single-stage press.
Okay.
The only thing I use a progressive for is pistol ammo.
So
handgun ammo. So
when we talk about, because we have a lot of new listeners who are getting into reloading or thinking about reloading, especially our prepper community out there, we obviously, you and I know what the difference between a single stage and a progressive is. Can you kind of give us just a simple breakdown so that they understand the difference?
Well, a single stage press is a press that has you can only do one operation at a time. You have one reloading die in the press, and you're doing one operation, whether it be sizing the brass or seating the bullet, or when you're talking about rifle brass, when you're talking about rifle ammunition, those are the two steps that you would do in a press. You would size the brass, and then you would trim the brass, and then seat a primer. And there are presses that have that capability of seating the primer, but I recommend doing that on a separate tool in my book. Mm-hmm. And I go into why. And then you would charge the case with powder from your powder measure and then seat the bullet. With a progressive press, there are multiple stations. And all of these operations, let's use, for example, handgun ammunition, whether it be a 45, 38, doesn't matter. There are more steps involved with loading handgun ammo. You would first size the case, and then you would go and seat the primer, and then the next step in the progressive press would be to charge the case with powder, but usually at the same time, case mouth would be belled, because most progressive presses, like the Dillons, the powder measure also has a part on the bottom that bells the case mouth. It makes the case mouth a little bit wider so that the case will accept the bullet better.
Gotcha.
And then the next step would be to seat the bullet, and then the final step would be to crimp the case on the bullet. So there's usually 4 or 5 stations on a progressive press where all of these operations are done, and some progressive presses are index automatically. That means that the shell holder plate advances one station every time you pull the handle, and some of the other ones, some of the less expensive ones, they're indexed manually, where you have to actually physically move the shell plate, and that's the part that is actually holding the cases in line in the press.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the thing with the Dillon 650. You know, like I said, I inherited it. I watched my father, and, you know, obviously he, you know, has been reloading all his life. And you know, you are correct. I mean, I remember my father when he reloaded his 45s for competition and everything, he would load a little bit hotter load for, you know, because you'd shoot 25 yards and 50 yards. And then that way he would never, and he had it down to a science to where he knew how many grains, you know, and everything. And then that way he would never have to move his sight picture, would remain the same based upon, you know, and just add a little bit more grain for the 50 yard. And, you know, I remember him sharing that with me.
He must have been shooting bullseye.
He was a bullseye. Yeah. He was my father was he qualified he shot for the Air Force for a while, and then he, you know, did it as a civilian and, as well. And then of course his shoulders, you know, it's the standard thing that goes out with us, with guys that are shooting bullseye, you know, the shoulders go out and, they just can't hold it up.
Yeah.
So he picked up golf.
Not to denigrate your father, but vintage bullseye shooters. Yeah. There was 2 schools of thought about that. Either, you know, like you said, like your father did, he would, you know, load 2 different, charges. He would load ammo for 50 yards, and he would load ammo for 25 yards. I did the same thing for rifle competition. I load one load for 200 yards, one load for 300 yards, and one load for 600 yards. Then there's the other school of thought, because I've shot bullseye, NRA bullseye also a little bit. The other school of thought is you change the sight picture, where if you're shooting at 50 yards, because NRA bullseye, the 50-yard stage is all slow fire. So what I did when I used to shoot bullseye is I would hold what's referred to as the center of mass sight picture for 50 yards, and then at 25 yards, I'd use the 6 o'clock hold.
Sure.
And it's basically the same concept.
Same concept. Yeah, you're just
because,
moving. Yep.
And it works out pretty good.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, for 38 Special and 45, which is pretty much what's used still to this day for NRA bullseye, the mid-range trajectory for 38 and 45 wad cutter target loads is, you know, the mid-range trajectory for 50-yard zero is about, you know, 3.5 to 4 inches, which if you held 6 o'clock hold on a 25-yard target would put you just about in the middle.
Sure. I got you. No, that makes perfect. I mean, that obviously makes perfect sense. Question, and I know I'm going to get a lot of them as we're getting here, and I want to make sure that we talk about your site a little bit too. It's amazing. The hour goes by really quick as it normally does here on the show. But I did have a question. You know, a lot of people ask me, what is the cost savings roughly versus, you know, buying store-bought ammunition versus reloading your own? And I know that it's different amongst around, but is there like a general number? Because we're huge advocates of reloading here. And the reason being is because you can make it a community event where several of you can go in together and buy the equipment, buy your books, and learn how to do it. And it's a good time for the guys and the gals, you know, to get together reloading at night. But the other thing too is cost savings. What have you found the cost savings to be, just for an average person?
Oh, the cost savings are significant. Okay, let's use 9mm as an example. When you can find 9mm ammunition now, and I'm not going to even go into what it was just a few years ago, but anyway, when you can find 9mm ammunition right now, you're going to spend somewhere between $16 to $20 for a box of 50 rounds at a retail store, if you're lucky, okay? You can still take those 50 empty cases and load them. If you buy your, like, say you go and you buy a case of primers, which is 5,000 primers in a case, okay, and then for somebody who's only, who doesn't really do a whole lot of shooting, 5,000 primers last a long time, especially if you keep your primers in an ammo can. Buy 5,000 primers, you buy an 8-pound bottle of powder, specifically for 9mm. A good one is Winchester 231, or there's a number of them that work well for 9mm. And then buy some inexpensive, bulk 115 grain bullets. I haven't priced them recently, but you still used to be able to get 115 grain 9mm bullets from this place out in Utah delivered to your door for $82 for 1,000 bullets. So you you can reload those 50 cases for around $4 to $5.
Wow.
So it's significant savings. And then here's the other thing. A lot of people think that there's significant investment in equipment. You can go to, there's a site called Natchez Shooter Supply, which is down in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yep, know them very
They
well.
have a kit.
Yep.
And now granted, the equipment isn't, it's made in China, okay, but it's good stuff.
Yeah.
You can buy everything you need except for a set of dies. Now, the dies are what actually do the work on the case, and the cases and the ammunition. And every caliber, the dies are caliber specific. Like you have to have a set of dies for 9mm. You have to have a set of dies for 308, etc. You can buy everything you need except for a set of dies for $130. That's a press, a scale, a case cleaner, everything you need except for a set of dies for $130. You load 1,000 rounds of ammunition, you're gonna save more than $130.
Sure.
Even if it's just 9mm. And if you're talking about rifle ammunition, the savings is even more.
Yep.
Because now, it's, from what I've seen, it's as if the cost of rifle ammunition has increased geometrically in proportion to the cost of handgun ammunition, factory handgun ammunition, especially if you go to some store like that, whether it's Gander Mountain or Farm and Fleet or what have you.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yes, the savings is significant.
Okay. Yeah, and it's good. I obviously know the savings, but I think it's good to hear an expert come out and say, yes, there's more reason. Obviously, the quality control is a lot better, with doing it yourself versus, like you said, versus a factory reload, especially if you're a precision shooter. But the other thing, too, is the cost savings. And, I've got friends, obviously, that reload and stuff, and they can spit out a couple thousand rounds in an evening easily of good quality, rounds. And
you can do that with a progressive press like the Dillon 650, particularly if you have, a bullet feeder and a case feeder. Then you virtually have like a little mini factory.
Oh yeah.
But here's the other thing. The one thing that I point out in my second book, the chapter on Progressive, is that the production claims that some of these manufacturers claim, like Dillon, of 8 to 1,200 rounds an hour, are, in my experience, exaggerated.
Yeah.
A more realistic figure is 300 to 500 rounds an hour, and one of the reasons why is simply because of operator fatigue. You sit at a bench and you pull a handle on a reloading press 800 to 1,000 times in an hour, you're going to need a break.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. I think my father at the most maybe got 500 rounds, and that was when he was going, full bore. But like I said, it's not a race. It's one of these things too. To be honest with you, I wouldn't want to rush it because, that's where you start making mistakes and, you're not checking your
exactly.
Stuff. So
you're absolutely correct about that, Jeff. You do not want to rush the process.
Yeah.
And so consequently, the production claims are exaggerated.
Yeah. And like I said, my father used that Dillon for years, and I don't think he ever got nowhere near the numbers that they say or that they reported and everything. So, but, obviously with all of our listeners, if you're interested in the books, I highly recommend, especially if you're talking about reloading and Tim's absolutely correct. I've been out there on the web. I've searched for books. I've searched for manuals on how to reload and all of that. And I didn't find anybody. So I actually, like I said, I resorted finding a couple guys at the club, guys that I trust, guys that I know. And I said, look, take the Dillon, put it in your shop. They already had a couple already set up. And I said, when I can get over there, can we sit down and do it? Now, obviously everybody is busy and we haven't reloaded in quite a long time and stuff, but that's how I did it. So, I mean, your books, obviously, if I would have read your books or knew about your books prior to that, I probably would have my Dillon 650 down here in my basement. And after the show, I'd be reloading. But, I'm one of these guys, safety, when my hand or my face is near that, the breech and everything, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. And that's why I deferred to guys that I know that, guys that I know who they are as well. We won't say their names and everything because I know that they shoot out there at the F-class matches and everything out the range as well. So, but, let's kind of move on. I know, we talked about, to all of our listeners, go out to our website, www.themidnightpatriot.com. After the show tonight, I will have a link to both of Tim's books on reloading that you can actually purchase them directly from Amazon.com. And I highly recommend, as you guys all know, we are all about reloading here and, being self-sufficient. And if you're going to do it, these are excellent books. They're the only ones that I've been able to find that actually explain the process for us novices, and they will do it in such a safe manner as well, which is very important, and everything. So, let's switch gears. Let's talk about your website, 1776men.org, right? Or .com. It's 1776men.
Yeah, 1776men.com
sure.
And .net. I have several domains. But anyway, that website is a online magazine that I've started, and I've already written several articles.
Mm-hmm.
And I also will accept any other legitimate articles that anybody would like to submit for publication on my website. I just completed just a few days ago an article about heating with wood, which is based on my 15 years of experience of heating with wood. And I will reiterate what I wrote in the first couple of sentences of that article, is that, there's a lot of people out there who have considered, switching to heating with wood. And like I've told people a number of times, heating with wood is not just an alternative heat source. It is a different way of life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I agree with you on that.
That's on my website, and I'm constantly writing other stuff and working on other products that I'm going to be offering on my website in the near future.
Sure. So that's 1776men.com.
I started 1776 Men because I am a writer. And there are other things I want to write about besides just reloading. And I thought it would be kind of cool to have an online magazine.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of cool to have an online internet radio show. I mean, I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
Especially talking about the things that we talk about. And, the more information. Actually, I had a great brunch with Joe and his family. He was in town, and a lot of you guys would know him as Joe the Plumber, and it was an outstanding breakfast this morning. And we were actually talking about that we need to stop being so selfish in the media part of the Patriot movement, and we need to start reaching out to those to more and more people that have the same goals and the same aspirations as we have, and start sharing that knowledge with them and bring them along, because we need more voices in the Patriot community, be it website, be it other radio shows. And that's, one of our goals here is that we're going to start promoting, we're going to make it an active effort to promote not only, our show, but also other shows like ours, other websites like ours, and stuff, because we need more voices. We need more voices and stuff, So, what good's knowledge if you don't share it?
Absolutely.
With other people? So, and it is refreshing to know that you're right here in town. Like I said, it was strange when I looked at your site picture. I was like, he's here local, and then sure enough, I found out that we're pretty much neighbors. So, but
we'll have to get together sometime.
We will have to get together. I've got a bunch of questions for you, and an hour's never enough, especially when we talk about topics like this. But we got so many other things we got to get to tonight and everything. But I would love to have you come back on if you don't mind. There's some questions that I have about like ARs and accuracy issues, and I know that you shoot in competition, so you can probably answer those for our audience as well and everything. So, if you don't mind, I mean, can I call on you on a regular basis to have you kind of, every Monday? I think Mondays are going to turn into our firearms/ammunition days.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we discuss that via Facebook or
Absolutely.
Or yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you take care of yourself, and thank you for taking time out of your evening to spend your knowledge. And like I said, we'll get your books up on the website, and you definitely got a couple sold right here with me, because you're exactly what I was looking
Jeff.
for.
I always enjoy talking about. I always enjoy talking about guns and shooting and reloading. I have it on the back cover of my first book. Shooting and reloading are my passion, and I believe everybody should be passionate about something.
Absolutely. I agree with you, my friend. But take care of yourself, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
You have a good evening.
You too. Bye now. That was Tim. Tim, obviously, like I said, it's a small world. It's amazing, how we're getting out there and how we're, we're affecting other people. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We're going to take a small break here, and when we get back from the break, we're going to be taking calls from callers. Obviously, we'll be talking about the news and current events. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. Join us here live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. Replace politicians with a citizen statesman. www.stoneanthony2016.com. You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. till 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. On the line, I do apologize about that. I don't know what happened, but one of our servers just dropped out. But I know that we have another special guest. JJ, are you there?
I am. How you doing tonight, Jeff?
I'm doing, the gremlins have Crumpton and stuff. That's what happens when you change your programming around a little bit. But, I don't know what happened, but we just lost one of our network feeds that does all of our queuing and all of that stuff. So, but that's part of being live, right?
That's how it happens. It's never a dull moment.
I hear you. So, your call is so timely because we were talking about. I actually had brunch with Joe and his family, Joe the plumber, earlier today, and tell his real last name, but most people know him as Joe the plumber. And, one of the things that we were talking about today is how, because he obviously knows a lot of the mainstream media guys out there and stuff. And we were talking about our goal for this show should be allowing people to have a voice. Other shows like ourselves, other blogs, other events and things like that. We can't be selfish. So, with that, it was amazing. And I do apologize. I really, really wanted to catch your show today and everything, but I just got caught up with it's one of those things where it happens that way almost every day, where you think you've got everything that you need done, and in my case, it's the news that breaks during my show sometimes throws me for a loop because I don't have a big staff or anything to process information or get me sound bites when I need them and things like that, so it's kind of on the fly. And there are days when I go into the studio and I think, man, I know exactly how this show is going to go. And then, you never know what's going to happen. And I've had technical issues, and I don't want to say anything disparaging about the streaming provider that I'm using, but I'll just say that there's some curious timing sometimes to the problems that we have. Yeah,
Put it that way.
It's fun, and you're correct. I started out with your streaming provider, and they serve a really good purpose. But then the thing is that when you want to move into the next level and everything, that's why we went with Spreaker, and everything. And I highly recommend. And as we were talking about earlier, we are putting together a network system set up, and it's 128K high fidelity stereo. And so as we add our network, but I get it. Talking about technical problems too. Not only.
Oh yeah.
Today I love my Mac. I have a MacBook Air. I love it. I swear by it. There's help for people like you. I know. I know. It was funny because I'm always telling, I pull out my MacBook and they're like, everybody's like, oh, you're kind of snobbish, aren't you? And it's like, no, I just like it because it works. I've had it 3 years, never had a problem. And actually, we were talking about that today about the Mac, and Joe was telling me his story with his, and I'm like, oh, I love my Mac. I literally got home. I was in Chicago. I had a meeting in Chicago. I got home about 3 o'clock, got ready, started to do my show prep. And that's the reason why I missed some of your show was I turned on my Macintosh. My hard drive was filled up. It was complete. And so I called Mac support and I'm like, why is my hard drive filled up and crashed? And they said, well, it's a problem with Time Machine. And because I have a backup system and Apple backup system, they said it does that every once in a while. And you need to do this and you need to do that. Now, to the defense of Apple, I will have to say that as they were saying, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that, I was rm-rf ... to delete the files. And that's a command that you should probably never use. For all my Linux listeners, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For all the people that aren't Linux, RM is basically remove.
Yes.
RF is force, and it doesn't matter. There could be a semi-truck between you and your data.
And unfortunately, Regis Philbin's not there to say, is that your final answer?
Exactly. And there is no recovery. So I blew up my hard drive. Right, and it had all my, because we are switching over our formatting a little bit as far as the structure of the show. So I had all of my cues, all of the stuff I've been working on over the holidays, gone. And then, of course, being a Mac, it's encrypted hard drive. So to restore it off of the time backup or the backup system that I have, that didn't work because obviously the keys no longer match up, and so that data is gone.
The multifunctional device now becomes a paperweight.
It's a paper. Well, I was able. At least I did get it restored. I just I will admit I am a computer geek, and I made the fundamental error of thinking that I knew better. I'm the same way. I have a very technical background. As I had to have a technical background though, because when I started in broadcasting when I was 15, sure,
and unfortunately, when you're young and naive, people will take advantage of any knowledge and capability that you have. And so throughout my early radio career, I found myself being drafted to do all kinds of maintenance and other things down through the years. And I mean, that experience has served me well, but it's sometimes I've cursed it because of the fact that, I really wanted to dwell on the creative side.
Yeah.
And too often I found myself up to my elbows in transmitters and, all kinds of things. And, you see ice road truckers and you see the kind of dilemmas they get into. Well, I was in Alaska for, almost 30 years. And I was born and raised there, and then I went back there for the bulk of my radio career. And, it's like, once they find out that you've got technical abilities, it's all of a sudden that's all you're doing.
Yes.
And yes, when you have a hard drive fail, especially I'm one of these people that believes in backups, and I always have maintained a redundant backup on all of my data and audio and stuff like that. But you start out thinking, oh, this is going to be a grand day, and the next thing you know, it's like all those plans have gone by the wayside, and next thing you know, you're looking for an iPod that you can use to play your stuff on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I don't mean this to turn this into an advertisement for Carbonite, but I do have a Carbonite backup, so I'll have to, after the show, I'll pull that down. But it was just like, I've got over about, as you're in the business, our audio files, I've got over 200, just in the past 3 months, I've got over 230 gigs worth of, sound clips. And
what kills me, I got a laptop, and, it's fairly beefy for as laptops go. And, 500 gigabytes on the hard drive at the time was quite a bit 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And everything's set up, and I'm thinking, man, this thing should be screaming, fire breathing. And what I found out was that iTunes was going and grabbing all of the podcasts, and it was going back as far as it could on about 20 shows.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here, and and of course I plugged in my iPhone, and all that stuff transferred. Now my iPhone is full of podcasts, and and if you want to make a call, it'll take 20 minutes for it to actually respond.
Yeah.
And it's like, good grief, we're smarter than this. We were supposed to be beyond this in the year 2013.
Exactly. All this technology, I think it actually hinders us in some ways, more than it actually aids us. As I'm sitting here, it's funny because, like, here I am in the studio, and what am I looking at? I'm looking at a yellow notebook with all my notes on it with a black marker.
Yep. I've got a mechanical pencil.
Yeah.
And, I use that more than I do the pen.
Yes.
But I've also, got the dry erase board.
Yep.
That's got all my dates and times and who's going to be on the show and all these other things. And it's like, I'm still clinging to the old media, the chalkboard and the chalk type thing.
Yep.
I'm just not ready to let it go yet.
Well, you know what? It works.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, it really does. I mean, we depend so much on this technology and everything. And, the reality of it, I believe it or not, and it's not because I was looking for a throwback. And everybody that's listening to shows like, oh my God, they're digressing in the radio, nostalgia here. I was actually looking at some old cart machines, getting 4 of the cart machines instead of getting the pad machines as a backup. Cause I know those things work. I mean, they're war horses, because I've had times where like I said, the computers fail or whatever.
Well, your previous guest was an expert in reloading.
Yeah.
And if you were to do that, you'd need to buy yourself a whole bunch of tape and just razor blades and splicing tape and you're talking about technology that the kids of today have absolutely no idea what we're talking about.
Exactly. I mean, and it is funny. It's Wait, here's that story. I don't want to make my dog here. Dad, don't talk. We were at it was like a flea market, and there was a typewriter there, and she was looking at that, and she's kind of looking at it. I said, honey, that's a portable printer. I said, you can take it anywhere. You can print up your papers. You can do whatever you want, no matter where you're at. You can be on the ocean. You can be on the boat. You can be anywhere. You can be at the campsite, and you can print up your papers from anywhere with that. And she was like, really, Dad? I want one of those. And we just started laughing, because you're absolutely correct. The kids of today just have no concept of some of the arcane technologies that we grew up. But you know what? That typewriter works. It still to this day works and everything. But
yeah, exactly. We've come a long way.
we have come a long way. So my friend, obviously, we didn't bring you on here to talk about radio nostalgia and stuff. We brought you on and wanted you to join the show and everything to kind of talk about your show and what you're doing and some of your background.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate that. Thank you. A chance to introduce myself to your audience, and I want to say thanks for allowing me to be a part of your show tonight. And my name is J.J. McCartney, and I'm 51 years old, which means I started radio back in the late 70s, 1978. I always worked on air, but I found myself more and more as time went by concerned about news and current events, and I just kind of found my niche with talk radio in the early 90s, right after my daughter was born. And, over the period of time, it's changed so much. And the reason that it's changed is because the technology has allowed us to do programs like this from the comfort of our homes. And you'd never know it to listen to the show. It sounds like it's, produced in a radio studio, because it is. I have a studio in my home. And I over the years, I found myself, I was working in ancillary broadcast areas where I was working technically behind the scenes, got away from the day-to-day on air, and I found that I didn't have an outlet for, the thoughts and the ideas. I'm a lifelong Christian and a conservative, and I see the country and the path that we're on, and obviously it's the wrong path. And, there's so many people out there that have been they've been duped by not only Barack Obama and the liberals, but they've been duped by the education system in this nation. The media has been controlled by corporations for, their entire lives. They have no idea what it means to have a well-rounded view of the world. Everything has been so far slanted away from the traditional founding principles of our country. And I found myself kind of, looking for an outlet, and for several years was basically just kind of doing shows on a daily basis that I would broadcast on my little 15-watt transmitter here locally. And I said, what, there's got to be a better way to do this. And essentially, Providence stepped in, and a friend of mine that lives in Ohio knew a guy that lived in Texas, and he knew a guy that was looking for someone to host a new show associated with a website. And so I got to know the founder of the website. The website, if I may, is just simply www.conservativejunction.com. And from there we got acquainted, decided, okay, I'm going to do a show. If I'm going to do a show, I wanted to make sure that I could do the show the way that I know it needs to be done, and was given full creative control and basically ownership of the radio franchise, if you will. And what I've done is kind of build a 2-hour-a-day show right after Rush Limbaugh's show is over, because, of course, it's sacrilege to try and compete against Rush. 2 hours a day, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, and started back in August 19th was the first episode. And, it takes time to build an audience, takes time to gain momentum and to actually penetrate the different stratas that are out there, because there are so many different, this country is so diverse and so scattered right now. But the one thing that Conservative Junction is really dedicated to is trying to bring all of the people together under one tent. And it's not about making money. I mean, we're not, this is not about revenue. This is about saving the country. And it's about, so much more the idea was to get tea parties communicating with one another as well as with other grassroots organizations, anything from heritage.org to all these other organizations, because what the left has done so well and what the right has done so poorly is basically to be organized and to collaborate one state with another, one group with another, so that events are larger and you get more boots on the ground. I believe that had we had an organization in place in 2006, that we would have won in 2008. Now, having said that, I also have to take issue with the Republican Party itself. The Republican Party itself is being it's being destroyed, and it's not being destroyed by the Tea Party. It's not being destroyed by conservatives. It's being destroyed by, I think, by design. Yep. The two parties are basically yin and yang on the same, in the same sphere. They have gotten far, far away from worrying about the consent of the governed or the will of the people. Yep. They have an agenda, and as long as they can live in that little bubble and not have to really be accountable to the people, then what's going to happen is exactly what we've seen. That no matter how hard the people try and push back, the agenda just keeps moving forward. Yep. And so in order for us to really affect change, I say, the Republicans, they're going to have to come to me. I'm not going to go to them. They're going to have to come to me. They're going to have to come to the conservatives, to the Tea Parties. In what Mitch McConnell said on Friday, I don't know if you heard about that story was released. I got wind of it today. And basically, this is the Senate Minority Leader, who's the top Republican in the Senate, saying that it's time to push back against the conservatives and the Tea Party because he thinks that we have been destructive towards the cause. And could you get any more out of touch than that? I mean, the voters in Kentucky have a chance to elect a candidate that is conservative and understands that the people really are frustrated and really do want to repeal Obamacare. And, Obamacare cannot be settled as far as I'm concerned until it's repealed. Yes. So, that's kind of the angle that I've taken with regard to other issues as well. I mean, I try not to enter into any show thinking, well, I'm just going to talk about this and this and this, because you never know what's going to come up. But the idea has been to try and bring guests to the show that can contribute what, their thoughts and their materials. Have quite a few authors on the show that have books they're trying to sell. I'm sure you have the same thing. And they're always happy to come on your show. But I've got a guest coming on tomorrow. Third time he's been on the show. I've gotten to know this guy. He's turned out to be a pretty good friend. And that's Dr. Jim Garrow. Mm-hmm. And his first of all, he thinks on a higher plane than most people. We're just kind of looking up. It's like looking up at the blimp. Yeah. And that's not a shot at Jim on his weight either. It's just the fact that we really do need to listen to words from somebody that has seen the things that he's seen as a former CIA guy who has, just a stellar record of serving humanity well. Yeah. I mean, the Bethune Institute in China, the Pink Pagoda Foundation, where they've saved last count about 45,000 infant girls in communist China, and found adoption homes for them and things like that. I mean, this is a guy that really cares about what it really means to be a God-fearing conservative. And he has some information he's going to share with us tomorrow that is really kind of bombshell material. I'm sure you're aware of the stories that have been floating around about what was to have taken place regarding, a conspiracy theory that goes all the way to the top, put it that way. And there's going to be a lot of details that'll come out, and you won't hear about it in the mainstream press because they all take their marching orders from the same corporations and the same entities that say stay away from these things. That's taboo. And if you want to keep your job, then you maintain the party line. And so you and I, Jeff, we become the alternate media. And we have to carry the heavy water now because people are looking for truth and they're not getting it. What they're getting is homogenized, processed. It's basically Velveeta for the mind that you get from networks and the national news services and such. They're not concerned with truth now. They're afraid to tell the truth because they've seen the reprisals that come towards people, and reprisals as in Andrew Breitbart, Michael Hastings, Tom Clancy, that kind of reprisal.
Yes. And
it makes people a little skittish.
Yeah.
Well, sooner or later we're all going to die anyway. So we may as well do the work that God put us here to do and not worry about it. And that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like, America needs to hear the truth, and it really needs to sink in. And I'm afraid that, things could have gotten really out of hand. I've always kind of had this idea that Barack Obama is just itching to declare martial law. Mm-hmm. But given what's happened in the last month and a half, and specifically the Obamacare rollout, and then a series of events that did not allow Barack Obama to actually fulfill his plan, and he had to take a few steps back. And now you realize, okay, the people do not want Obamacare. Yep. Barack Obama's approval is at an all-time low. I know Congress's is too, but in this case, I think we have an opportunity to seize on the fact that Americans are fighting mad. And especially last count, I think it was 20 million people that have or are going to lose their health care coverage because of Obamacare.
Well, actually, and we're going to talk a little bit more extensively because I have some inside ties to what's going on and keeping my ears to the ground there. And, it's more in the neighborhood of about, currently you're looking at about 20 million, but when phase 2, and there is a phase 2, of this happens at the end of next year, they're estimating about 80 million Americans are going to be without health care coverage in the United States. And and we're going to talk about that. I don't want to kind of let the cat out of the bag, but in the next segment, I'm going to share with our listeners some of the information that we just came across our desk today and everything. But to your point about mainstream media, I sat down and had a lovely brunch with Joe and his wife, Joe the plumber, and we were talking, and I'm not going to out any organizations, but one of the things that just came out and it just blew my mind is it's a website that I look up to. It's a website that I get a lot of my information from, and this is not insider information, but it's kind of stuff that he was telling me is that even now, even the websites that even we rely on as alternative media to get our news source, they're actually running the stories up through corporate and saying, look, we can't offend the major players in the industry. And I was shocked. I was actually, you want to say heartbroken, because I look at this and I'm like, and he gave me specific examples of that today and I was like, are you kidding? And of course I'm not going to divulge that because it was in a conversation, but now we're in our alternative news, mainstream sites that we depend on, even that information is being filtered by the corporation. So that's why we need to turn up the heat even more so. We need to cultivate our insiders and everything. And that's
I think one of the things that has been one of the biggest ruses that's been pulled on conservative Americans is, and I'll come out and say what I will say because I'm not talking about your conversation there with Joe the plumber. This is strictly me. But I believe that the Fox News channel came into existence and was cultivated to be what it is today as a ruse, as a way for conservatives to feel like they had an advocate in the media.
Yeah.
When in fact, if you really step back and look at what Fox News has done, they have moved much more to the center.
Yes.
Than anything else. And when people say, well, Fox News has so many more viewers than MSNBC and CNN, well, that's not really much to brag about. Yeah. I mean, CNN and MSNBC, I mean, they're in a death spiral, and it's easy to beat networks that are in that kind of a free fall.
Yes.
But the problem is that as time has gone by, the American people have, been aboard this floating floating mound. It's like Fukushima's radiation junk,
Yeah.
and they've floated farther and farther towards the center, not realizing that they've been dragged there against their will, but not knowing it. I mean,
Yes.
and a long time ago, Bill O'Reilly has always just, bothered every last nerve I have because, I mean, the man is so clearly in love with himself. And, it worked out pretty good for him after that sexual harassment allegation that he settled out of court. And, all these types of things happen. And yet, he tries to act like he's the Teflon guy,
Yep.
And I like Dennis Miller, but his politics are way, way far left of mine.
Yep.
And, I look at these people and I realize, they don't represent any ideology. They represent their brand.
Yeah.
That's all it's ever really been about.
Exactly. And that, and that was one of the things that we talked about. And that was one of the promises I made to Joe today when we were talking, is that this show is not going to be about, a cult of personality, Jeff Norton or whatever. Number one, I'm not that good. I'm just a voice out there. And number two is that, when I start believing my own BS, that's the time that I need to be taken off the air. And that's why our goal is to find other individuals, that have the same message and carry it forward and promote and help, because there are so many guys out there who don't have the technology skills and understand the industry that we can bring up. And, I was talking to a fairly respected producer in the radio business, and he said, you know what? He goes, the next Rush Limbaugh is somewhere in the podcast world. And
Right.
we need to find
Right.
them, and we need to, bring them out. And, part of your job is, obviously you got a voice and you want to do this, but your job is to find that individual, because if you can find them and cultivate them and bring them out.
It's one of the problems that we've had, and it's in this technological revolution that we've gone through over the past several decades. Sadly, one of the problems we have with radio broadcasting today is that there are no more mom and pop stations out there, which that was the university system for broadcasting. Yeah. Forget the school of broadcasting. It was always, small towns, mom and pop stations, and people that had the aptitude and the skill and wanted to work hard and get better and improve would move from small market to a medium market to a larger market, et cetera. But now we don't have that. Yep. And so you're looking for up and comers in the younger generations, and they're simply not there.
Yeah.
And that's a huge disservice to the people of this country. And sadly, I love the technology. It's one of the specialties that I was able to work many years in the world of radio computerized automation systems, and help to design some of the features and to market the thing, as well as just from a technical standpoint, how do you fix it when it breaks down, and what do you do to make sure that nobody's ever off the air and things like that. And what happened was I looked at it and I realized, okay, this is a double-edged sword here. On the one hand, you get to cut your expenses and you get to make your product sound more consistent, and all these things take care of themselves, and you're getting rid of all the moving parts. But at the same time, you are undercutting the opportunity for the talent level to stay up high. And as time goes by, you listen to radio stations across the country today, and you hear the same voices all across the country. It's like, John Tesh, apparently is in very high demand.
Yeah.
And I like John Tesh. He's a good guy. I have worked with him on numerous occasions to make sure that he's happy with what he's got.
Yeah, sure.
And he does a good show and everything, but I think that there have to be other people out there that want to be able to do this, but they just can't find an entry level to do it.
Yep.
And so you got people now at home working on podcasts, and that's a good thing. But the one thing that's bad is that they don't have anybody whose experience they can draw off of. And if I had not had good mentors when I was a youngster in the radio business, I would have probably just lost interest.
Yeah.
But as it was, I stuck with it. I'm very I'm really excited at this point of my life to have found a chance to do something like this, because I'll be honest with you, it's a chore for me physically. I've been disabled and had some health issues, and it's been a very taxing experience day after day to do this. But at the same time, I find that it's the thing that gets me up in the morning, and I'm excited to face each day. Now, what we need more than anything right now is for guys like you and me, and many, many others out there, to like you say, we need to forget about the idea that we're competing with each other. We're not. We have to come together under the tent of true conservatism and the concept that if America doesn't change course in the next 2-3 years, we're going to lose this thing forever.
Yep.
And if we don't take that responsibility and approach it just like the founding fathers did, our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor, we give this everything we've got, because if we fail, then it's another failed great society that landed on the scrap heap of history.
That's right. And there is no there is no alternative that bodes well for us patriots. So that's I tell people when they ask me, they're like, well, Jeff, why don't you go to the cabin and just kind of live your years off and enjoy the work that you've done to this point? Why are you starting another venture? It's because I agree with you. I think in 3 to 5 years, I think is what we have left, and we need to make fundamental changes in this country, and we need to start waking people up, because it is not going to be the same country that it is when we put our heads down for the night. We're going to wake up one day and it's going to be completely different.
I was on Facebook today.
Yep.
And I saw a post from somebody that it was a picture out of a Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it was in the upper Midwest. And it showed this area. And at first I wasn't sure what I was looking at. I saw stools like you would sit on. And then I was like, okay, well, what are those things in front of and what it was foot washing basins.
Yes.
And then it turned out that they had to set aside an area of this Catholic school.
Yes.
For the Muslims, so that they can pray to Mecca and wash their feet in their ritualistic fashion.
Yep.
And I think to myself, my God, we are dangerously close.
Yep.
And I believe that we have an entire political party that is more afraid of the Ten Commandments than they are of Sharia. And we, plain and simple, Barack Obama is a Muslim. And I say that because I judge him by his actions, not his words. And what we've seen him do in his terms as president, unquestionably, he has undermined the interests of America in the Middle East,
mm-hmm.
and he has boosted the interests of the Muslim Brotherhood,
absolutely.
And through association, Hezbollah, and many other Islamic Jihad, many terrorist organizations are now excited that Barack Obama has talked about taking a trip to Tehran next year.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me how, a year ago, a little more than a year ago, we were listening to the debates between Romney and Obama. And, you'd never have thought that this is where Obama was going, based on his debate performances and the words that were coming out of his mouth. But when you look a little closer, Barack Obama is really, he is just the teleprompter guy.
Yes.
I mean, who's really calling the shots in the White House right now? And I believe it's Valerie Jarrett. Whoever else is pulling the strings of Barack Obama, I mean, he is definitely not serving the good people of the United States of America.
And I think, and maybe you can confirm this, but I saw a blip. Isn't Valerie Jarrett's either boyfriend or newly married husband? Is he not Muslim?
Well, you might recognize him. His name is Ahmad Rashad.
There you go. Okay.
Ahmad Rashad, the same that played for the Minnesota Vikings. His real name was Bobby Thompson, and then he converted to Islam, and he's dating Valerie Jarrett.
Yep.
And of course, Valerie Jarrett, people may not realize this. She is the top advisor to the president in the White House. She's almost never far from his side. She was born in Iran, and has made many overtures to Iran this entire time since Barack Obama took office in 2009.
Sure.
And, people don't hear this in the mainstream media. So they tend to think, oh, well, that's a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. But really what it is the fact that the media has fallen down on the job. And so now we have to not only convince people that what we're telling them is true and it's easily verifiable, but we also have to convince people that if they don't start moving their keisters and get some things done, we're gonna look back on this day and say, my God, this generation failed. And if it's anybody's fault, it's our fault because we didn't recognize the signs and take action sooner than we did.
Yeah.
And rather than live with that regret, I say let's just go balls to the wall until we get everybody on board.
And and that's one of the things that we like to do is call it out here. When we see the news, we're not going to hold back. We're going to release it. And there is a balance there, as you know, but the reality of it is UK Mail just came out and said that, last week, this is not our mainstream media. It's pretty bad when you have to go to RT or UK Mail, other media services outside this country. And they clearly said that they have been brokering a deal on our behalf with Tehran for quite a while now. And,
it's infuriating.
Yeah,
it really is. But what you said, I find myself, RT provides more timely and relevant and accurate information than any of the networks here in the United States. And I mean, you think about that. Okay, I'm watching Moscow to get my news.
Yes.
I mean that's so foreign. When I grew up in Alaska during the Cold War.
Yeah.
And I used to have to tolerate the fact that Radio Moscow is blasting it. 500,000 watts right across the North Pole. And so, I could listen to them on my AM radio where I lived when I was growing up. And it's like, man, that propaganda it's infuriating to hear the things that they're saying. And yet now I look and I say, wow, Americans can't get their news accurately from anybody in the U.S. anymore.
Yep. And even Putin is reaching out to us and saying, look, you guys, America, you need to start waking up. And that is the irony of all ironies, isn't it? Yeah, when he's exactly, where he's telling us that when the guy that who was part of the propaganda machine and the Pravda and all that is now coming back and say, look, I know Pravda, I created it, I know what it looks like, and by the way, you're getting it right now. And then last week I had Rodney Conover on and we were talking about it, the fact that it's pretty bad when Tehran comes back and says, well, wait a minute, America, you might want to read the agreement that we signed, not the one that your government's telling you to sign, but the actual agreement that we signed, and it's nothing like what your government's telling you. Oh, by the way, when is our nuclear scientist coming back? That you
exactly.
Guys the guy was obviously arrested for a reason because he was a threat to our national security. Well, this administration just gave it back to him today.
Right.
He's on a plane going back to Iran.
It's outrageous. Now, the other thing that struck me was last week I had Mike Bushman on the show, and reading his book, which is called Melting Point 2040.
Yep.
And he said, "Isn't it eerie that we have Bill Clinton giving Barack Obama the advice that he needs to be more honest with the American people?
Yes.
And we have France telling America that they need to be more conscious of their national security."
Yes.
I mean, how far have we fallen as a nation? I mean, Barack Obama is a laughingstock overseas.
Oh.
I have no doubt in my mind that people are laughing at us right now, and I think at the same time they feel a pinch of true concern and pity for the American people. And when Vladimir Putin is extending that kind of olive branch to the American people, I mean, that tells you how things are. And I'll be honest, I am really uneasy about the way that the senators on Capitol Hill and the congressmen as well, on the right as well as on the left, they no longer are putting the best interest of the nation.
Oh.
I mean, it is all about party. It is all about getting a pat on the head from Barack Obama and his power brokers.
Yep.
And what we need to do is we need to overwhelmingly dominate at the polls in 2014, and we need to use whatever momentum we can generate between now and then to finally once and for all remove the filthy, dirty money out of politics.
Yep.
Because ever since McCain-Feingold became the law of the land, we have seen this outrageous effort on the part of George Soros and many of his shadow groups and many others, labor unions and such. What they're trying to do is they are trying to just completely and totally muddy the waters to the point that the American people say, I'm just sick of it. I'm not going to vote ever again. They're all trash, and it doesn't matter.
Well, they do. I think their game plan is to keep us at odds with each other, to keep us fighting across racial and religious beliefs. And, it's funny that you mentioned George Soros in that conversation, because actually Vladimir Putin actually has an arrest warrant for Soros right now in Russia. If he steps foot in Russia, he's going to be arrested because he has been caught trying to manipulate their economy and currencies and stuff. So he's going to indict him. And, but this is the guy that, that's supporting our party. Here you go. There's a guy that's being indicted who's basically a felon in a foreign country, who still has some, well, I don't want to say some, but he has a considerable amount of pull and, with our current democratic liberal media and liberal leaders. And it's just amazing that we do. I mean, they've got us figured out, all those years of sociology and anthropology and all of this stuff where they, dissected us and dissected our thought processes. I think they actually have it dialed in, and they know what will dumb us down. And you're seeing a full court press, with that knowledge that they have, which we talk about political correctness. A lot of Americans don't understand that political correctness came from the Nazi Party. They were the inventors. Their scientists were the inventors of political correctness. And so when we talk about political correctness, you're actually talking about a system and an ideology of the Nazi of the Nazi Party. So, and
an offshoot of that is the Saul Alinsky rules for radicals.
There you go.
And by the way, I'm going to have John Hawkins on the show on Wednesday.
Wow.
And we're going to be talking about the rules for radicals and how we can turn that around on the left. And it's going to be a real fascinating conversation. I'm looking forward to it very much. The one thing I want to stress here with whatever time we have left, your previous guest was talking about first of all reloading, which I found very fascinating, but also I heard him say something about heating with wood and thinking about adjusting lifestyles as we move forward in this tenuous economy.
Sure.
One of the things I will tell you about myself. I am a lifelong conservative. My first vote was 1980. I got to vote for Ronald Reagan, and ever since then I've always been conservative because the ideology is so in harmony with the founding fathers.
Yes.
But there's also some ironies that we're seeing today. One of the ironies is my radio studio here is 100% powered by wind power. Just so happens where I live on the western plains of Nebraska, we have nothing to obstruct the wind, and we happen to have a home that's in the right position. So I put a couple of wind turbines on the roof and invested in the stuff that I would need to have that. And the reason I did it was because, first of all, one of the diabolical things that Barack Obama and his people have done is to manipulate the energy markets to the point where we're putting people in the poorhouse every month because of electricity and the war that he has declared on coal. And basically it's a war on the consumer is what it is. And, as long as you're going to be paying astronomical bills, you may as well look and say, well, is there something I can do to head that off? And, so I don't have anything in common with Al Gore, but I've got wind turbines on my roof. I hope that doesn't make anybody scratch their head, but there are reasons for everything. And I really believe that as conservatives, we need to be wise and look to the future and say, if we had worst case scenario, how would we survive?
Yep.
And, even though I trust God and I pray every day, Lord, just please, give us more time to fix this.
Yeah.
But if we can't, folks, you don't want to be caught unawares because otherwise you're done.
Exactly. And that, look, you're not gonna hear any flack from this audience or this crowd, because we're all about prepping and getting ready and getting yourself, your own. And I'm not talking Agenda 21 sustainable living, but personal sustainable living. Get yourself off the grid. Get yourself dependent upon no one but yourself and your own mind and your creator. We're firm believers of that here on this show, and anybody that listens to us knows that. And there's nothing wrong with I'm a firm believer. God gives us doctors. God gives us, the technology and everything. And it's how we use it is what determines our true outcome. And I'm the same way. I'm actually looking at a 25 panel solar system followed up with a wind turbine system, but I'm still in a fairly metropolitan area, and our zoning here where I live, we can't put anything on our houses, even though you own it. I mean, we talk about lost freedoms. We were talking about that on a show that I did, another radio show last night. We're talking about lost freedoms, and I was thinking about that. My zoning in my community here, it's my house. I cannot put anything, even a satellite dish, I cannot put it on my house unless I have a permit from the city. And that's just crazy.
It is. I two things I would tell people. A, if you live in the city, get the hell out. Yeah. I mean, you don't need to be in a big metropolitan area because I mean, it's just going to fall. It is classically demonstrated with Detroit.
Yes.
That is Detroit's like the canary in the coal mine.
Yep.
And people need to learn from that. But the other thing is when you talk about the restrictions on homeowners and all the different zoning problems and such, I did make the calls before I spent the money to do what I did with my place. But the thing that gets me is now they are cracking down on anybody that's trying to use rain catchment systems to water their gardens or whatnot. If they want to take away my rain catchment system, then they're going to have to deal with the Second Amendment first.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it.
I agree with you. I mean, it's crazy. And that's all part of the Agenda 21 program, which we'll be talking about later on. Later on this week, actually, we have actually one guest who's a huge Agenda 21. We're trying to firm up his time, trying to get him between book deals and different things that he's doing, mainstream media.
Right.
So that's going to be a great show. But JJ, I appreciate now you actually have a terrestrial radio station along with your internet radio station. Did I hear that correctly?
Well, let me tell you what I have.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what I haven't. Okay. I have the equipment. I can flip a switch and be on the air at any time I want. It is one of those things where I look at it this way. Did that story today about withdrawing the consent. The American people may be unaware of the fact that the government derives its power by the consent of the governed. And a lot of people forget that. But I look at the federal government today, the overreach, the overregulation, the executive orders that are unconstitutional, and all these things add up to me to the degree that I am not worried about a federal commission coming here to this tiny little spot on the map and making a big deal of somebody that's got a couple of watts of power and is going to basically what I'm doing is I'm broadcasting to the reindeer. I'm broadcasting to the wildlife, the coyotes. There's really nothing else out there. The reason I set that up was so that I could feed audio to every room in the house if I wanted to. Gotcha. I could listen. Because we don't have any decent radio per se where we live as far as AM radio. I mean, there's no. You can't listen to Rush Limbaugh unless you're on your computer. Yeah. And so we kind of look at all that, and I was like, well, there's got to be a way. And so I said, okay, I'll engineer this and I'll do that. So yeah, I could, if I wanted to, turn myself on and go full power, and people would be able to hear me. But I choose to be very sparing in how I use that. But what it gave me the opportunity to do is because I built a whole complete radio studio, all types of equipment. If you walked into my studio, you'd say, wow, this is a radio station. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the point. I wanted to have that capacity because I'm eventually planning on expanding programming and getting more things going. And, I'm very interested in talking to you after the show on some of your projects, because I think we're thinking in a like-minded fashion. And I think that what we need to do as a nation right now of conservatives is to have some think tanks get together and say, listen, if we pull ourselves together the right way, there'll be no stopping us. They're really, and this is the type of thinking that we have to look at. I mean, if the FCC says, no, you can't do this, this, and this, well, then I'm going to look and say, well, we can do this, this, and this to really take the advantage of the fact that we are thinking people.
Yes.
And where they might tell, the average lemming on the street one thing, there's always a way for somebody that has some technical prowess and knows what they're doing. My big fear is that at some point in time, they're going to flip the switch on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no doubt that day is coming, and that is why I am rapidly investing in broadcast equipment that would give me the capacity to do more than, broadcast to the coyotes in the backyard.
Yep, absolutely. And, a lot of people don't realize this, is that the federal courts, actually, the lower courts, have actually ordered the government to disclose the kill switch and how it operates and when would it be used, and to develop rules. And obviously the federal courts are saying, look, you have to let the people know, because the airwaves are actually owned by the people. And then of course the FCC and the government's like, well, that's all. What they did is they classified it as of last week as a national security thing. So that tells me that they actually have something in place, and you're absolutely correct. And that's, more recent. I don't know if you heard obviously you're on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. We are hearing more and more about patriot movements, patriot groups who are being put in Facebook jail because they say something that doesn't.
I'm raising my hand. It happened to me over the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I could not, for a whole week, I couldn't invite anybody to our show.
Yeah.
And
I've already had a 7-day, and then they put me on a 14-day one this time.
Yeah. So well, guess what? And this is where we need to get together as a community. And I know we got a lot of listeners out there that and I know we have some technology guys, and what I did is I reached out. I reached into my bag of friends and acquaintances and people that I know that are in the technology industry. I said, look, find me a Facebook clone. Find me one. And then tell me where, I can get a CDN, which is a content delivery network set up, and, tell me the best hosting company
right. Understood. I would like to just for your information.
Yeah.
The founder of Conservative Junction, that's Daryl Pettit.
Okay.
He's in San Antonio, Texas, and he has invested the money, and we've actually got a conservative social network built on that website. And we're still trying to get people to come check it out and, kick the tires and decide whether they like it or not. But it's an alternative. Sure. And what we've told people is that, it's got most of the features that you want from Facebook, but it doesn't come with the, with this blanket organization that's policing it all, so that nobody can express themselves.
Exactly.
And so, I'd encourage anybody that if they want to check it out, just to take a look at it, they can go to conservativejunction.com and look and see what it's all about. And it's in its infancy, I will say that. But as it is, we've started with about 1,200 users have registered and gotten online so far with it, and the website itself has done quite well. We're rapidly approaching 9 million hits on the website. And so it's coming along, and it's that type of thinking. And I couldn't agree more with you. You need those alternatives, because Facebook is owned and operated by special interests. Even though it had a public opening and they've got investors and all that, who really is making these decisions? These are things that are decided at a very high level of government. They can bring pressure to bear on Facebook's executive branch in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
And through political pressure, they one way or another will have their way.
Well, and a lot of people don't, and this is very well documented, so I don't have a problem getting this out there in the mainstream media. The original funders, the original people that funded Facebook, that got them off the ground, were CIA. They were actually at one time or former time. And I think, I don't think you ever leave the CIA.
No,
I think you're
no.
still there, and I'm sure your guests will be able to confirm that. These individuals apparently left, and then they actually got the initial funding for Facebook. And if you think about it from a how do you say, a national grid or surveillance grid system, Facebook is the best solution, because the government's not having to spy on you, because they
can data mine all night long.
Exactly, because you're willing to give them that information. And
it is a slippery slope.
It is.
Now, the other thing about it, you were talking about communications and mass communications and the government power. My fear is that A, they flip the switch on the internet, and B, is that the cell phone tower system is disabled.
Oh.
And I mean, you think about how quickly this country would just fall into out and out panic. It literally would be a matter of an hour.
Yes.
And the longer it lasted, the more desperate people would become, the more lawlessness you would have, and I believe it would just be a matter of hours before martial law was declared.
Yeah.
I believe that was what Barack Obama had in mind. I believe that he was counting on some things to happen with regard to natural phenomenon that didn't work out the way the scientists thought it would, and that kind of blew his whole plan. I tell you what, tomorrow Dr. Jim Garrow is going to shed light on all of this, and I wish I could tell you more, but I don't want to step on his toes.
No, we got to get, and all of our listeners out there, and give you're on Blog Talk Radio, correct?
Yes, if you go to Blog Talk Radio, it is just blogtalkradio.com/ and then no spaces. It's just Conservative Junction Radio. Now, another way you can get to the show is on my website. My personal website is just JJ McCartney with no spaces, just jjmccartney.com. And on the front page, you'll see the Blog Talk Radio apparatus that has our archived episodes there, and you can get to the Conservative Junction page from there as well.
Sure.
It's like I said, the show is live from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Rush Limbaugh's show. And don't ask me why I picked those hours, except for the fact that I knew I couldn't do it during his show. I knew that any other time of day would probably be a throwaway. Yeah. And not to say I didn't want to do it during the evening, but if I did it during the evening, I would not have any time with my family.
I got you.
And so chose those hours. And so if people can't listen live, they can always go to the archives. All of the shows are there on the Conservative Junction Radio page on Blog Talk Radio, all the way back to August 19th. And we've had some stellar shows the last couple of weeks, and certainly tomorrow is going to, by and large, be the biggest show we've ever done. And so if people want to listen to what Dr. Jim Garrow has to say tomorrow, I think you're going to be really amazed at what he has to say, and it's really it's the kind of thing I look at, and when I started this project, I told my wife, I said, this is going to be the most significant and best work of my life. And I really believe that's the case. I cannot tell you how pleased I have been with how it's been received and how much support we've gotten from people that are just really pulling for us.
Yeah.
And and I look at it and I think, okay, this is a start. But we need more shows like yours and mine and others out there. We need to get more people engaged. And if we do that, I think we'll be just fine. But obviously, the clock is ticking.
Yes.
We don't know how much time we have before events unfold. And that's really what makes this such an urgent call for people to really pay attention and don't trust your fellow man to do your work for you.
That's right.
I mean, God knows where we will be if we don't get together soon.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we have to come together, and that's very important. Now, would you mind if now, obviously, are you recording yours other than using Blog Talk Radio?
Yeah, I record every show every day is recorded in very high quality. I have the envy of the world when it comes to my system here.
Yeah.
It's as good as you can get. And I'm very, very pleased because I have the ability to grow from here.
Sure.
And so it's better to have too much than not enough.
Exactly.
And so yeah, every show is backed up, and the idea here is that eventually we will be getting into a 24-hour live network of some sort, and we're looking for more shows that we can incorporate into that, because I think it's really important that people have easy access to the kind of shows that you and I are doing.
Yes. Yes. No, I agree. And that was always our goal as well. And everything is to expand this, not only have our 3-hour show. And, I picked the late night because I'm a late night person, and it kind of goes along with the Midnight Patriot. It kind of,
it would kind of lose its punch if you said you're the midday Patriot.
Midday, yeah, it was funny because I actually had a couple terrestrial radio stations that approached us and said, look, if you're interested, could you do mid-morning? And I'm like, no. As much as, as tempting as that is, because the goal is to get on terrestrial, but the reality of it is it just doesn't go along with my programming. And then, of course, then I felt that if they're already making demands on me now, then,
well, you remember WKRP in Cincinnati.
Exactly.
Remember when Johnny Fever left and then came back and had to work the overnights, and he changed his name to Heavy Early. And it just, it wasn't the same guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have to be yourself. And definitely. I've enjoyed listening to your show. I listened to the episodes you had recorded last, I believe it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to get more and more involved. And I really definitely, once we're done, if not tonight, then certainly tomorrow. I'd love to get together with you off air and just talk about things, because I think it's I believe that in these times it's going to be people like you and I that are if we're not leading the charge, then certainly we need to be doing a lot of the grunt work to make sure that this movement doesn't die off and it doesn't get undermined by the political powers that be.
Exactly.
And you and I and everybody else out there that is a U.S. citizen. I mean, the power rests with us ultimately, and the Constitution backs that up. But a lot of people are just oblivious to the Constitution these days. Yep. So that's what it is. What it is right now. We need to get people educated in a hurry about what their rights are, and how long it's going to take for us to do this. I don't know, but as many years as I have left in me, I'm going to do this until I drop.
Exactly. I mean, and that's the thing, is that we just we just gotta push. We gotta keep the pressure up. They're starting to show, like I said, they're starting to show the cracks in their armor as well. And we need to keep pushing. And like I said, my goal is to cultivate, to take everything that I've learned. I mean, because I'm new to this, obviously, and learn from it, grow from it, and then pass that on and grow a network. So we'll definitely get together after the show. And
sure. And Jeff, I'd like to invite you to, if you'd like to call into my show at some point in time, and we can visit and get familiar, get my audience familiar with you as you have kindly done for me.
Absolutely. So JJ, your site once again is?
My site is jjmccartney.com. That's my personal website. And then the big site is conservativejunction.com. And if you go to the radio page there, you can also get to the Conservative Junction radio page on Blog Talk Radio. So there's a few pathways that you can use, but I would recommend going to Conservative Junction Radio or conservativejunction.com, and then click on the radio button. And once you do that, you'll see my bright shining face. I don't think I could look more white than I do. And I was like, it's funny because the founder of Conservative Junction, Daryl Pettit, is African American, and he and I have really, we spent enough time on the phone in the last 3 months that I feel like he's my brother.
Yeah.
And ethnicity has nothing to do with it, folks. It's people of all colors and persuasions that are coming to this realization that we've only got a little bit of time left to do this.
Absolutely. Well, JJ, thank you very much. While we were talking, I was able to get our media server back up and running.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Good news.
It's barking. Well, it's barking at me. It wants to pay some bills.
Sure enough.
And
all right,
so
Jeff.
Take care of yourself. I look forward to tomorrow's show.
Well, thank you much. God bless you, and look forward to hearing everybody tomorrow.
Same to you, my friend.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow. And that's what this show's all about, people. Bringing the Patriot community together, doing great things. getting guys, the fact that here I am. I mean, I'm at awe. The fact that I have the opportunity to talk to a radio insider, a guy that's part of the business. Actually, Rodney, a lot of people, we don't talk about this enough, but Rodney Conover, who's on the show quite a bit, is, another one of those guys, and just developing great relationships. And that's what happens when you reach out. There's more to building this movement than posting on Facebook and putting up memes and everything. You got to reach out. You got to reach out to individuals that think like you. You got to talk to them. I mean, that conversation basically, as you guys heard over the air, that all started out with the fact that we had, JJ and I had some common interests and started talking to each other. And that's what we have to do, because he's absolutely correct. The switch is going to get thrown. Our cell phones are going to be turned off. Social media, obviously is already being blocked. But it's just a matter of time when the government, when it's convenient for them, or where they feel that they have their oppression in place and they're ready to act and pounce on us, they're going to flip the switch. And the thing is who are you going to Facebook? Mark Zuckerberg's not going to come and save you. He's not going to help your family, protect yourself from the tyranny. And that's why it's very important that you need to develop more than just relationships on Facebook, but you need to develop relationships, the human spirit, the human mind. And, and the best way to do that, obviously, is through this show, as we talk and everything. We'll get you connected into the Patriot Network. If you want to join the conversation, you can always give us a call, 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. We're going to take a very quick break. So obviously we've been talking for a while, so I'm going to take a little quick break. When we get back, we're going to hit the news. There's so many things that I want to talk about Obamacare, and I'm going to give you what we call a little teaser here. Obamacare, in lieu of all of its legality issues, there is one thing that's when they fixed Obamacare. December. Obviously, it's having issues already. There is a screaming legality. And when we get back from a break, we're going to talk about that. We're going to break that down for you. And in most states, I don't know how your state is, but in most states, what they are doing is illegal. And it was in most insurance companies that did exactly what Obamacare is doing right now would actually be charged, would literally be charged by the district attorneys of the state. You need to reach out to your DAs. You need to reach out to your professional organizations, the ones that do the licensing, and you need to reach out to them, because I think we have an opportunity here to actually put some skids on the Obamacare rollout. And we're going to talk about that when we get back from our break. But right now, you're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. You can join us live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We're not going to spam you. I promise you that. We're not going to spam you. We're only going to send you the information that you need to have for the upcoming shows. Now, like I said, we are going to start publicizing our upcoming shows, content, and all of that on the web. So go out to our website at www.themidnightpatriot.com. Of course, we're going to have Tim's link on tonight's page. We'll also have JJ's link to his show tomorrow. I can't wait. I'm excited. I can't wait to listen to that interview. I'm sure that we're going to hear some bombshells. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and Podcast. Out of control spending, a government that no longer works for the people. Had enough? Then vote for Stone Anthony for president. Replace politicians with a citizen statesman. www.stoneanthony2016.com.
And the twilight lies gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket trailers, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, traitors that star-spangled banner, yeah, wave for the land under the brave, and the home of the brave. Because we are the brave. Yes, we are the brave. We'll fight you in the name of the brave. We are the U.S. of A. For those unaware, that flag is still there. It's your future to save. Stand of the brave, the U.S. of A. Oh, traitors that star-spangled banner, yeah, wave for the land under the brave, in the
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. Join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. You can join us here live every Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. Central Standard Time till 12 a.m. Wow. What a show. What a show. What we're going to do is because, we had some, that's what this show is all about, conversation. Getting people sitting around having the conversation. And, I wasn't about to interrupt those. We had, two great guests. Tim was on talking about reloading and his new website, 1776men.com. Obviously, we had JJ on, dropping a bombshell on us about a guest that he's going to have on his show. Like I said, go out to his website. We'll link to it. If you go out to www.themidnightpatriot.com, we'll have the links up after this show, so you can link and listen to that. It's going to be an outstanding interview. I can tell you, there's going to be information for those that are listening tonight. You're going to get some heads up information on some truth. You're going to get some truth, and you can only get that in mainstream media today. Like I said, a site that I regularly visit, I rely on heavily. I was informed. It's kind of like, you kind of, I don't want to go far as say, so, you find out someone's cheating on you or whatever, but it's one of those things where you just feel let down to know that they are a corporate shell, or that they answer to corporate media and they've given up their true identity. And to find that out, it was, I'm glad I found it out, but to know to know that that is taking hold. I would never have thought it. Like I said, I'd share it with you, but I just don't, out of, it was given to me in confidence, but you just got to be aware, got to check your sources. And that's one thing too, here at the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and Podcast. So, we try to show you our sources as much as we can. I'm trying to get those up there on the system a little bit more. Our new server is back up and running, so we'll get those out there as well and everything. So with that, let's just kind of roll into the rest of the evening. We've got about 45 minutes here, and we've got a lot of news to cover. Right before we went off the break, there were some things. Obviously December 1st was a drop-dead date, right? So the day that the president threw out there and stuff. Well, obviously, CNN, as we were all sitting there with anticipation, knew the site was going to crash. CNN, kind of proved it. It can only handle about 30,000. It was originally, or not originally, but it's designed, or they said it would be able to handle 50,000 simultaneous users. They're finding that it's crashing at 30,000, still not fixed. We're finding that there's about 700,000 individuals that have not enrolled or cannot enroll. We're finding that out. So that, even after the president set this date, it's still not attainable. Now, the other thing too is that, and this, I'm not scared, it's not, there's a lot enough scary things out there. There's a lot of scary things out there. We don't have to make this up. We're not out here to try to scare you. We just want to give you the information. When you enter into the Obamacare exchange, if that's what you so choose to do, you need to be aware that there are still fundamental security flaws. These are individuals, are saying that the website still has fundamental security. These are not, sophisticated hack issues. These are fundamental design issues of the website that hackers can gain access to your personal information. CNBC is reporting about it. You need to go out there and you need to watch it yourself. Just, put it into Google. But there are, even after this redesign, and we talked about this on this show, you cannot redesign an application such as this website on the fly and expect, the security, if you even had security to begin with. And it sounds like CNBC's reporting that they didn't even have security, true security in place. They had fundamental, rudimentary security, kind of stuff that you get from college kids, right? But that's what you get when you outsource. Anybody in this industry, in the technology industry, will tell you that's exactly what you get when you outsource technology. Especially to individuals who don't have a vested interest other than picking up a paycheck, right? And that's exactly what's happened here. The first thing, and I'll just let you know, the first thing that happens when you start, cramming this technology together is your security protocols go out the window. I mean, I am sure there's some security officer out there who's just, pulling their hair out, but they're being told to be quiet because they have to meet this December 1st deadline. And, Mr. President, I want to remind you, and I understand you don't get it, or you do get it, you just don't want to hear it. But either way, you need to understand the internet's a big place. And there are, for every 1,000 smart guys and gals that you have working for you, supposedly, it could be the brightest, your most talented. You have over 100,000 who are equally as smart and equally as bright working against you. And that's just the fact of life. That's the reality of it. Now, the compound this problem, this president is obviously upset a lot of the technology guys in the industry. And so they don't want anything to do with him. After 600 million plus, we actually put together estimates when you add in the states and everything, over $4.4 billion has been spent. Do you know with $4.4 billion, you could have given every American $10 million and they could have gone out, every American, young, old, working, not, and they could have went, and you still would have saved the country money at $4.4 billion. It's just unbelievable, Mr. President. Unbelievable. But all our listeners, you need to be calling your attorney generals, your AGs of your state. And you need to file a complaint. You also need to be calling your professional licensing, the people that handle your licensing for your insurance companies in your state. And let me tell you why. We have uncovered a major flaw with the current Obamacare website. When you go and register for the site and you enroll in the site, they give you the plans. They give you, your silver, your bronze, and all that. One of the things that they don't get, and this is in clear violation of state law. Clear violation of state laws. I know it is for the state of Wisconsin, and I'm sure it's for other states as well. They fail to give you the explanation of benefits. That in itself is a major omission. It is actually illegal in many states to provide insurance services or to sell insurance services without giving full disclosure of what the individual is actually purchasing. It's in every state law, pretty much. I don't know about your state. I can tell you it's in the majority of them, if not all. You cannot offer an instrument of insurance or any financial instrument, and insurance is definitely a financial instrument, without providing the full details of what you are offering. That is a major flaw. Like I said, as you go in and you register for the site, you can pick your plans, but there is no description of what the plan entails, and that's a violation of the federal trade laws. You need to be contacting your attorney generals right now. You need to be shooting the emails. You need to get that message out there. You need to let people know. You can't, how can you sign up, obligate, encumber, it's a legal term, encumber yourself on a product or on a service in which it is not divulged of what that product and service contains? And that's under the Obamacare website. But of course, since these are criminals that are running this Ponzi scheme, they know better. They know better. But they threw it out there. So the site itself is null and void. Any obligations, any commitments that you make are null and void, because you cannot enter into a contract with a third party without disclosure of the terms of the contract or the agreement. And you definitely cannot enter into an insurance-related agreement or encumber yourself financially to an agreement such as insurance without getting full disclosure. They are obligated under law to provide that to you. In most cases, right now, you don't even know who your provider is. That's right. You don't know who your provider is. They don't even provide that simple information. And why is that important? Well, like in the great state of Wisconsin, the carriers that are actually providing insurance in the state of Wisconsin, because you're hearing about all of the carriers like Aetna and Humana, they're dropping out of the exchange, correct? The reason why is because they know that it's not economically feasible. And so you have other insurance companies, no-name companies, who are now picking up the thing and picking up the torch, per se. But the problem is that remember the promise that the president said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor? We're actually finding out now that the majority of those insurance companies, your doctor's not in that network. They have, in the state of Wisconsin, one of the exchange carriers only has one physicians group for the whole state that's in their network. You need to do some more investigation. The whole Obamacare, we knew it was a doom buckle, but they finally got the site out there, and now we're seeing forget about the site, we're seeing other issues, other major issues, Other issues that if you were a private business or a private entity trying to sell insurance in that state, you would be barred, if not prosecuted. If not prosecuted. And don't take my word for it. Go out and look at your state statutes. But you cannot offer insurance in a state unless you provide the details of what you are offering. And the Obamacare site does not give those details. So there you go. There's your news flash for the night. There's your news flash. You can't do it. It's illegal. It's illegal. You are protected. There are consumer laws that protect you from this type of predatory insurance scam. And it is a scam at this point because they are acting like a scam. They're acting so much like a scam that they're sending door-to-door salesmen. Hear about this? They're literally sending Obamacare door-to-door salesmen to sell this insurance product called Obamacare without giving you the information. They are no different than that scam artist, that huckster who comes and knocks on your door and wants to sell you insurance with no backing. And then you're going to find out the insurance you have. There are so many Americans who are going to wake up one day thinking that they have coverage, thinking they have insurance, thinking that they're part of this exchange if you sign up for the exchange. They're going to wake up and find out they're going to go to their doctor. Their doctor's not even going to be in the network. You're going to have to go to another. Remember, like your doctor, you keep your doctor. It's not true. It's not true. We already know about, like your insurance, keep your insurance. We already know that was a lie. Now, this is one more. But so you need to be calling your attorney generals tomorrow, and you need to be, filing a complaint. That's how you as patriots, because you as a citizen within your state can do that. That is your right. That is your right to file the complaint. So go to your state's website and file the complaint against Obamacare and cite the fact that they do not divulge the information or the products or services that they are delivering at the cost. They do not fully disclose that. That is in direct violation of most state statutes. And it would actually bring a Federal Trade Commission litigation or lawsuit. So that's with Obamacare. That's the news that we had. And then, let's talk a little bit about Black Friday. I appreciate all of you patriots that stayed home. And the numbers out there, sales are down. And it's sad, but it's a true indication of our economy. People, they're seeing a lot of foot traffic, right? But they're not converting that to dollars. And the reason being, I don't know, if my insurance, quadrupled under Obamacare and I knew I had to pay for insurance, or I had to go buy that cheap Chinese piece of plastic, had to be part of the consumerism that's crammed down our throats by mainstream medias and pressure. I'm going to have to take the insurance. This economy that you're seeing is a direct reflection. The down in sales is a direct reflection to Obamacare. Think about it. Price of gas has actually gone down in most states. Food costs have pretty much stayed the same over last year. A little bit higher. So what is driving people? Why is keeping people from spending that money? Because they're concerned. They were hit with a bill. They don't know if they're going to have a job. They don't know if they're going to have to cover their own insurance. So naturally, what are they going to do? They're going to go out and partake because, they don't want to be stuck in the home, but they're not going to spend money. So you retailers out there, you chambers of commerces out there, as you're looking for the answer to why your sales are down, I would start right at Obamacare. Macroeconomics will tell you that when you study that in college. There's a direct effect. And we're already seeing it. We're already seeing the effect of Obamacare on this economy, on this hard economy. Now we have unemployment numbers coming out at the end of the week. I can tell you right now, whatever they report are grossly understated. And the reason why I say that is because you got to realize under the Bush, this is President George Herbert Walker Bush, they changed the calculations of unemployment and how they calculate unemployment. When you factor in unemployment, underemployment, people that are no longer that want to participate in the job market, people who have never been able to enter into the job market, i.e. college students, i.e., and let me explain to you the issue with that, is that the Obamacare relies upon the young to get a job and to participate into the exchange, to pay for all the sick people. What we're finding out, everybody that's signing up for Obamacare are the ones, and I don't want to say they don't contribute to society. I'm not saying that at all. So don't send me the hate mail. What I'm saying is that they don't contribute into the pool on the majority of them. These are individuals that are low income earners. These are individuals that probably didn't have insurance to begin with. Yeah, you signed up, Mr. President, you're 10 million, Americans that didn't have insurance because they couldn't pay for it. They couldn't afford it. So they're not paying for it now. But in the meantime, you put 20 million out on the street with their insurance. And then your grand plan, which is to get the healthy to offset the sick, it's not working out for you, is it? It's not. It's not working out because those individuals are staying in their family plans or their mom and dad plans. They can't get jobs. They can't afford it. And those that can get jobs are paying a reduced rate. Now you're going to see, and this is by design. I want to explain this to you. These are, I don't want to, say that Obama is completely inept. What I'm telling you is this is all by design. This is, and we talked about it on the show when we had Rodney on here, Rodney Conover, congressional candidate for the great state of California, 8th District, Nancy Pelosi's old seat, before they redistricted it. This is all by design. You are going to see a vast majority, not minority, majority of the American people get subsidized health care. It's all by design. That was the plan to begin with. That was the plan. Wait and see. You heard it right here. We've been talking about that from day one. The plan is to get America subsidized health care. Now, granted, you have America, going back to our last conversation we had with JJ, it's not about what's right for the American people. It's about what's right for the political parties and so that they can gather more votes. That's why this current administration, GOP, is so hot about amnesty for immigrants, because they are disillusioned, thinking that if they're on board with amnesty for illegal aliens, that they're going to get that vote. But when we had, can you hear me now, Joe on here, who's a expert in the amnesty issues, when he was on the show, he clearly said when Reagan did it, it didn't bode well for the Republican Party. It didn't bode well. All you're going to do is put 20 million more voters in the Democrat or liberal column. You already have a liberal Democrat coup in the Senate. And this is a coup. They are systematically taking over our government. They pass it by the Senate rules when they change the Senate rules. It's coming, America. You need to wake up. You need to wake up. And let's talk about it. And Obama, they're not doing a short-term plan. You heard, or maybe you didn't. One of Obama's chief advisors said Obamacare will be up and running, fully operational by 2017, right after the election. They are queuing up Hillary Clinton. She is going to walk into the White House, they think. This is their plan. And they're going to give her basically supermajority rule. And not supermajority in the sense of they have more votes, but through procedurals, through control of people's health care, through people's control of their finances. Who's going to oppose her? Because they count on us sheeple. Not this person. I'm not a sheeple. You know, we have a constitutional problem, and it's eventually going to turn into a Second Amendment problem, because I ain't giving them up, nor should you. Nor should you. But that's the game plan. That is the game plan. You know, and you know, let's talk about. And if you don't think that this administration is going to use the IRS to oppose people, they're already doing it. The parents of the child that was complaining about the loss of coverage for their child is now being audited by the Internal Revenue Service. Imagine that. Go on national TV, talk about losing your coverage because you got a major ailment, cancer, and now they're no longer covered. Can't get insurance. Their insurance is dropped. They're not getting any insurance. Now, I know Obama said, oh, everybody's going to get insurance. Well, this family's not getting it. Didn't get it. Not covered because of a loophole. And what do? They go out and they talk about it on national news. And the government, now what they do, they sick their IRS dogs on them. It's exactly what they did. That's exactly how this works, people. If you don't get along, they are going to sick their IRS dogs on you. We're already seeing it. It's just the beginning. It's only a matter of time before every American who doesn't participate in their socialistic, communistic conversion of this country are going to be looking down the barrel held by an IRS agent. It's coming. It's already started. We're already seeing it. Like I said, cancer patient in public to discuss the cancellation of his insurance under Obamacare now says he has been informed by the Internal Revenue Service that he is now under audit. There you go. It's already starting. Unbelievable. You know, since Hillary Clinton, we talked about that. You know, they're going to try to put her in the White House. 2016. Since she's already pretty much confirmed that she's running for president of the United States, as she was the spokesperson for this administration, and now she's going to watch the play here. She's going to distance herself. She's going to be unlike. Now remember, the Sal Alinsky. Obama's not the only one that read that book. The Clintons were awesome at it as well. Rules for Radicals. She's going to, watch. She's going to throw, I'm not like President Clinton. Well, obviously, you're not. You're worse. You think Obama is a dictator? Obama, even though he went to Harvard and has the education, how many Harvard Review, and he was, writer for or editor of the Harvard Review, a very prestigious magazine. How many articles did he write for Harvard Review? 0. How many true votes did he do as a senator? How many bills did he co-author as a senator that were actually meaningful? 0. How many corporations has he been the head of? 0. How many true planning organizations has he been involved with? 0. All he is a paid community organizer, a rebel rouser, right? That's all he does. That's what he did. Who happened to get elected to office. Not that sophisticated. This scam that they're perpetrating is not a scam of a sophisticated individual. It's just outright thuggery and thievery. You heard me say it. It's outright thuggery and thievery. That's the Chicago way. That's the way they do it here in Chicago. Hillary Clinton is conniving. Hillary Clinton has a history of violence. Hillary Clinton has the mode, the method, and also the apparatus to take over this country. She's demonstrated it time and time again. Now, let me, as we, since she threw her hat in the ring, she's fair game. She's fair game anyways what difference does it make, right? What difference does it make? Let me kind of refresh your memory here, America, about Hillary Clinton. Some of her scandals. Healthcare is nothing new to her, by the way. Let me refresh your memory. 1997 federal judge Royce Lamberth levied a $286,000 sanction against Bill Clinton's administration for running amok in the cover-up of Hillary Clinton's healthcare task force. Remember, she was a big proponent of universal healthcare. She put together a task force, and they violated all sorts of laws to the point that they were actually, a federal judge levied a sanction against Bill Clinton's administration. When you get a sanction levied against you, that means that you pretty much, committed a crime. Or not, might not be a crime, but a civil offense. Might be criminal or a civil. But they did it. So she's no spring chicken when it comes to healthcare violations. The scandal began when Deputy White House Counsel Vincent Foster, remember Vincent Foster, made contradictory assertions about the First Lady's job status in an attempt to keep work of the task force secret. Foster later committed suicide. Remember that? Found him in a park. And the Secret Service agent saw Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, Margaret Williams, carry boxes of papers out of Foster's office before investigators showed up to seal it. What was in those boxes? What were in those boxes? They were never produced. Now, of course, we'll never know. Only the shredder will know, right? The report of the Special Prosecutor Office concluded that Foster had been suffering from clinical depression and was involved in work related to a number of important and difficult issues, including controversial appointment and litigation related to the healthcare task force, the dismissal of the White House Travel Office employees, and the ensuing fallout from the incident, the Clintons' tax returns, which involved an issue regarding treatment of the Clintons' 1992 sale of their internet interest in Whitewater. So this guy was involved in everything. Wow. Just happened to commit suicide. You need to look into that. That's another story. There's huge forensic doubt that Vincent Foster actually committed suicide. There is more evidence to the contrary. And maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll get an expert on, someone who's actually researched it, and we'll have them talk to you. So there you go. Healthcare gate. Oh, here you go. Filegate. Confidential FBI files up to 900 former Reagan and Bush appointees were sent over to the White House Security Chief Craig Livingston, Deputy White House Counsel William Kennedy, a close friend of Hillary Clinton's from the days of her days at the Rose Law Firm, would frequently call up the FBI and have someone's file sent over on his say-so. The FBI director, Louis Freeh, called it an egregious violation of privacy. Egregious. So this is a lady, an administration, who has no problem, none whatsoever, polling confidential, private information that she can, I surmise, later use against her opponents. She has no problem doing that. You know, maybe we should have listened to her, because a lot of people don't realize that it was Hillary Clinton who actually broke the story about Barack Obama's birth certificate. A lot of people don't know that. It's been blown up as a birther movement. But it was Hillary Clinton's administration, when she was running for president, that broached the issue first. Maybe somewhere in her trove of files, she might know something. She might know something. But will we ever find out? Probably not. Probably not. But here you go. You have a presidential candidate who has shown that they will violate your personal privacy to get the information that they want on you. She's shown it clearly. So who's to say that she's not going to reach into Obamacare, get your medical information, all of that information? Who's to say? Who's to say that she wouldn't use or expand or, expand the NSA spying on American citizens? She has a history. She has history. Got to ask yourself. Cattle Futures Gate. Hillary Clinton came under scrutiny when, during her tenure as First Lady of Arkansas, she managed to turn $1,000 investment in cattle futures into a profit of nearly $100,000 in only 9 months. She claimed she had learned how to trade by reading the Wall Street Journal. Her broker had earlier been suspended from trading for a year after he was charged for manipulating egg futures markets. Insider trading, market manipulation. Don't know. Travelgate. In May 1993, Hillary Clinton wrote an infamous note demanding actions to get our people into the White House travel office. Billy Dale, its director, and 6 of his employees were quickly fired on the basis of rumors that they had engaged in criminal conduct. The rumors were cooked up in part by a 25-year-old cousin of Bill Clinton's, who wound up running the travel office. Travelgate. Whitewater, as we all know. The tangled web of Bill and Hillary Clinton's Whitewater real estate dealings in Arkansas prompted Attorney General Janet Reno to appoint a special prosecution to investigate. Jim McDougal, a Clinton business partner who went to jail over Whitewater, famously described the Clintons as sort of like tornadoes moving through people's lives. Billing record gate. The records of Hillary Clinton's clients on the Rose Law Firm in Arkansas were subpoenaed for years by investigators looking into Whitewater. They were finally discovered in a coffee table in the private quarters of the White House. No one ever explained how they got there. Really? I didn't put them there. In March 2008, as Hillary Clinton was running for president, Jerry Zeifman, the chief counsel of the White House Judiciary Committee at the time of Nixon's impeachment and lifelong Democrat, expressed his profound disappointment with her work on the committee. Among her transgressions were lying, removing files from the committee office without permission, and arguing that Nixon shouldn't be allowed any legal counsel before the committee. I terminated her employment on the Nixon impeachment staff, he told me. My only regret was that I did not report her unethical practices to the appropriate bar associations. I could not renounce her for any subsequent position of public or private trust. There you go. She was fired because of her unethical behavior when she was a lawyer. These are the scandals that are out there. These are the scandals that are readily out there. You need to wake up, America. They're teeing it up. You need to wake up. Obama, and Hillary's going to say things about Obama. Don't believe it. It's like good trial lawyers. You know, they will stand in front of the judge, and, you know, of course there are some who have complete disdain for each other, but on the vast majority of them, they will stand there, they'll be in opposition of each other, but at the end of the day, they'll go out and have drinks with each other. That's what you're seeing. That's what you're going to see out of this administration, and that's what you're going to be seeing out of Hillary Clinton in the near future. She's going to say things. Because remember, Barack Obama can't be reelected unless, of course, they declare martial law. But she's going to say things to make it appear, to make it sound like she's against this administration. But when, in all actuality, it was just being teed up for her. And, let me take you back to the day of the first election. Remember the day that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton disappeared, and that Barack Obama's staff put all of the press individuals on a plane, basically making it sound like the president was on the plane, his campaign plane, and they flew him off to Chicago while the president stayed back in Virginia, and had a secret meeting that still to this day no one knows who they met with. There is speculation because at the same time that they supposedly disappeared, the Bilderberg group was meeting there in Virginia. And then soon after that meeting, a week later, the announcement was that Hillary Clinton was stepping aside. See, you got to remember there are forces at work here a lot greater than you and I can ever imagine. The evilness of man. The evilness of man. So you got to just ask yourself, what was the deal? 8 years in the White House, and then she would come in, and then he would, President Obama, would secure her power, secure it for her. Is that what was discussed? Because that's what it surely looks like. That's what it surely looks like. Now, as we wrap up the evening, I want to share with you, this is a new segment that we're going to be doing every evening. You know, we talk about, the attack of us as Christians here on the Midnight Patriot show. It's a common issue with this administration. But I want to let you guys know, and I don't care how the revisionists out there try to spin it, they try to exclude it from our children's textbooks, how they, with all of their devious behaviors, how they try to deny the fact that we are built as a Christian nation. And so we're going to do a segment where we're going to show you that God's divine intervention in our country has been has always been there. We need to reach out to him once again. That's the problem with this country. That's the problem. We need to reach out once again. And here's a great example. When they were doing the Constitution of the United States, original Constitution, so when you had all of the members of the Constitutional Congress gathered, they were fighting And it was vitriol fighting. It was physical fighting. You had the big states versus the little states. They could not come to a resolution. Now, Benjamin Franklin, being who he is, has a history of not being, he's a religious man, but not being overly religious, or zealous, I should say. In the Constitutional Convention, when they were meeting and they were fighting and they couldn't do it, President Benjamin Franklin, unlike his normal past behavior, stood up at the convention and he said these words. An appeal for God's intervention. He asked for God's intervention into their endeavor. And a lot of the members of the Constitutional Convention were dumbfounded because Benjamin Franklin was not known for this type of outburst, type of support, this type of asking for God's intervention. But I think we got to the point where, we needed God's intervention, or he's truly thought that we needed to go to the divine. So they convened for 3 days, asking for God's intervention, and they calmed down and they went off and prayed. When they reconvened 3 days later, it is reported that there was a peace, a sense of gentlemanness amongst the Congress. Now, you got to remember, these guys were at bitter fights with each other over the Constitution. But after praying for 3 days, they came back together. And they passed the greatest God-inspired document of mankind, called the United States Constitution. Now, with that, like I said, every night of our show, we're going to give you divine intervention in our country, in the formation of our country, and how God's hand can clearly be seen directing this country. It's a new segment that we're going to be doing, Moments in Our American History. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. May God bless you. May God keep you. And until we talk to each other again, my friends, good night.